Yeah, Toney was walking around at about 200 pounds a good 3 to 4 months ago, and that's why this will be his last fight at 168. He really feels uncomfortable at getting rid of the weight, and he had to do that at 160. That's why he moved up 8 pounds, and now he will move on to the light heavyweight, which is 175, and he eventually he will become a cruiserweight, Toney will, and someday I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, if he turned as a heavyweight and became successful there.
Well, you know, I think right now he's got his work cut out for him right here against Roy Jones Jr. But here's a little look at Jones, and you're going to see the quick hands from Jones. Of course, he's improved a lot since this fight with Percy Harris, and boom, Harris went down and he's hurt badly. And that clubbing right hand of Jones is a real weapon. He only has to hit you once with it.
Not only does he have some good stuff, but he has some. You watch a guy, and sometimes he's a showboat. You would think that of Jones if you're not really a boxing aficionado. But Jones is a guy that really has the entire package. He just doesn't have the same notoriety as his opponent in James Toney.
Well, James Toney has had all the exposure. He's had all the major league title fights. This is going to be really Roy Jones's first major league fight. The last one he had was against Bernard Hopkins, and that was a rather dull 12-round affair. I think he's improved since then and really learned a lot since then. Is it enough? Did he learn enough to be able to cope with Toney's experience? That's going to be a big question tonight.
Here's this fight against Glenn Wolfe, which took place here in Las Vegas at the Thomas and Mack Center. And you can see some of the showboating along with his skills. Jones likes to compare himself to Sugar Ray Leonard. He has some of those same abilities, and the question is, will he be able to step up against a guy who is considered to be the best in James Toney?
I'll tell you what, he just landed a beautiful body shot in that little clip there, and that's another asset he's got. He's got a tremendous shot to the liver, which is right underneath that right rib cage, and it's devastating. He's got power in both hands.
Last summer against Malinga, and you notice the names aren't notable names. You really don't recognize many of the fighters that he's knocking out here. It doesn't mean he doesn't possess what it takes to be a superstar.
No, because you see what he's doing to these guys is what you're supposed to do to a Malinga or a Wolf or anybody else that doesn't have that type of name. You're supposed to walk through him like this and devastate him, and that's what makes a believer out of Roy Jones to so many people, is that he has destroyed the people he was supposed to.
This right here was his most impressive moment against Thomas Tate, a left hook, and he almost served that up while he was running across. He used the left hook, and
he jumped right in with the left hook. But that is a testament to his fleet of foot. He's so quick on his feet that he can jump in and coordinate that jump with his hands and catch you before you even blink an eye.
You saw Richard Steele, who was a third man in the ring in the Tate bout. He will also be the anchor here in this one tonight. Michael Nunn and James Toney. This fight right here was one that was pretty hard for you to watch, I know.
Well, it was. Here, Nunn steps in, drops his hands eventually is what's going to happen. Now, mind you, Toney had worn him down by going to that body so hard and had been catching up to Nunn from the 7th round on. Nunn steps in, drops a hand. Toney comes across with a right hand and hits him with a beautiful left hook. Should be coming up any second. See, he's getting it up with his little short shots there. Here it is. Here comes a left hook coming, boom, right out of there. Almost from a southpaw stance from James Toney. So he got everything on that hook, just stepped straight across.
You know, you were announcing that fight that night. That had to hurt somewhat to watch this happen to a guy that you brought through the ranks.
Well, I got to tell you something, it did, because I was announcing that fight on TVKO there. Nothing like that even came close to happening to Michael Nunn when I was training. Not to say I was, you know, the reason for it, but knowing that I had that close a relationship and seeing that happen to him, it really bothered me. It didn't make me feel good, which a lot of people thought I was going to feel good, like it was some sort of indication that we had split up, but in all seriousness, it wasn't.
The interesting thing about the Littles fight here is Toney was cut, and the referee said, well, we want to stop it. And they said, no, give us one more round, and you see what happened there, Toney with the right hand. And you also notice Toney's bigger in this fight. He actually beefed up. And
yeah, he looks quite thick around the body and the face. But I'll tell you, he he was getting labeled a little bit by Tim Littles, who's an excellent fighter, and he knew he was cut. He had to do something about it, so he stepped it up, and he stopped him in the 4th round, I believe. So here again, give credit to James Toney for knowing when and how to end a fight when he has to.
And there was a chance for Toney to lose this fight because with the cut, the referee wanted to stop it, and the ringside physician gave him one more round, and that's all he was going to get was this last round, the 4th, and he did the job.
Oh, that left hook was beautiful. And that's a heck of a fighter there that he just knocked out, Tim Littles.
I believe that when he beat Prince Charles Williams, and Toney had a bad case of the flu this night, and even though the fight wasn't as close as many thought it was ringside,
right,
the knockout was a picture-perfect punch, a thing of beauty coming up right here.
Yeah, straight right hand if memory serves me right. And Toney looking a little swollen there. Now, Prince Charles Williams, of course, Toney laid on the ropes most of the night with Toney suckering him in and doing a lot of good counter-punching, wearing him out. Toney fought a real lazy fight that night. I think with the motivation he's got tonight, it's not going to be a lazy fight. If it is, woe be to him, because he can't fight a lazy fight. It's got to be both barrels blasted.
They kept the secret about the flu, too. No one knew Toney had the flu but his camp. And there, he tossed a knockout punch, a left and the big right behind him.
He slid right around, going to his left to Toney, and left Williams just standing there, circled around him, and dropped a beautiful right hand right on the chops.
And now we're getting ready for the IBF Super Middleweight Championship. The champion, James Lights Out Toney, 44-0-2, 29K against the challenger right there, Roy Jones Jr. He is 26-0 with 23 sleepers.
Have you picked anybody in this fight, Seat? You got an opinion one way or the other?
Well, it's really hard to sit and say that Toney's going to lose a fight. If I had to pick, if someone tied my hands behind my back, threw me in a dark room and said you have to pick somebody in this fight, I would perhaps take Jones, not because he's a better fighter, but I think as good as a fighter is, there's always one guy that can beat you. I think tonight this could be the guy, but I can't find myself describing how Toney would lose a fight. You can see Toney.
That's right.
He loves to get the crowd going. These fighters had a big stare down at the photo shoot 2 days ago, and they had to part them. The handlers had to keep them away from one another. As we check the tail of the tape,
you know what strikes me, the main quality about Roy Jones Jr. is that he is probably the most superb athlete. And here we go to the tail of the tape. Just 25 to 26 years old. Toney's a year older. They're about the same in height. Jones has got a little bit of an edge. The weight, of course, 68-pound limit. Surprisingly, Toney's got the longer reach. But you know, basically, they're right down the middle on the tail of the tape here.
Here are the rules by the IBF in this 12-rounder. A 10-point must system. 3 knockdown rule is not in effect. It has been waived, as you mentioned earlier. No standing 8 count in the state of Nevada. Fight cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the final round. And doctor or referee can stop the fight.
I'll tell you what, I love Roy Jones's composure. He just walks around and he's wishing for this fight to come. And here we look at James Toney. As he says, he's one bad dude.
You know, and he doesn't mind being the villain. In the locker room, here's the way Toney weighed after weighing 167 2 days ago.
I'm saying 185, 188.
I'll say about 173.
What does it say?
What is that?
184.
What?
I said 185.
184.
Right. I see. It's very easy to do that. The body, when you starve a body like that, it holds on to every last ounce of water and food and everything else it can, and you just balloon right back up.
Now, what does that do? Does that help him, or if he's eating steaks, does that hurt him?
Look, if he had weighed in today, the day of the fight, he'd be in big trouble. As it was, he weighed in yesterday. He got 3 meals in after the weigh-in yesterday. They probably woke him up early this morning, got one in, put him back to bed, got him another one, and a little lunch. He probably had 6 meals between yesterday and today. All light, not gorging or stuffing, but definitely probably had 6 meals and a couple of barrelfuls of water.
So you don't think it'll hurt him?
No, we've been through that before. These guys, they assimilate that food and get their energy back with a good night's sleep. That's the advantage of having the weigh-ins the day before the fight instead of the day of the fight like the old timers had to. If you neglected yourself enough to come in that heavy and starve yourself the day of the fight, you paid for it that night of the fight. Now they've got a day to recoup and re-energize.
You can see Toney and his entourage. He loves to play the role of the villain. He's draped in black, his entire camp in black, and the crowd with mixed cheers and boos. Toney loves that. He thrives off of the opposition.
Look at Toney going right over to Jones's corner. You see, that's a little gamesmanship. He walked right by Jones's corner, and here comes Jones now. Oh, he's walking over to the neutral corner, but Toney gave him a message right there. He walked right into his house. That was his corner. Oh, Nelly.
So James Toney and Roy Jones Jr. are about to put it on here. The moment of waiting has been resolved. We're about to do it here, Joe.
Ladies and gentlemen, Top Rank Incorporated, along with your undisputed, undefeated king of beers, Budweiser, proud to be your bud, present World Championship Boxing. This bout is sanctioned by the International Boxing Federation with the approval and sanctioning of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Chairman Dr. James Nave. Commissioners Nat Carasali, Luther Mack, Dr. Elias Ghanem, and Crispin Rivera. The executive director is Mark Ratner. IBF supervisor at ringside, Bobby Lee Jr. Chief medical officer in attendance, Dr. Flip Homansky. Attending physicians are Dr. James Wishgame and Dr. Robert Voy. The timekeeper at the bell, Al Bisick. Counting for the knockdown seconds, Jane Broadfoot. The scoring for this bout will be done on a 10-point must system, and the 3 judges assigned are Glenn Hamada, John Stewart, and Jerry Roth. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action, working for the 104th time in a world title bout, referee Richard Steele. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the MGM Grand Garden, here at the MGM Grand Hotel, Casino, and Theme Park of Las Vegas, Nevada, somebody's O must go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! 12 rounds of boxing for the super middleweight championship of the world. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with gold trim and weighing in at 168 pounds. This 1988 Olympic silver medalist has a professional record of 26-0, 23 by knockout victory. Tonight, he steps up from the middleweight division, where he has already captured a world title and puts his perfect record on the line. Ladies